What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check. And to be honest, I'm not really here to reinvent the wheel tonight. I'm not really here to talk about anything that everybody else hasn't talked about 100 times already, as far as the wrestling world and who's going where and who's working with who and all that kind of thing. It's my little piece of the quote-unquote forbidden door conversation and bits of the Forbidden Door conversation that actually impact me and have sort of piqued my interest. Now, I don't come up here and talk about the Forbidden Door as it's become known very often for a couple of reasons. For one, the Forbidden Door thing becomes an obnoxious conversation really quickly, because not that I'm here to defend WWE. WWE's doing a lot of fuck shit right now. They've fucked over their main roster. They've fucked over NXT to the point that I don't really talk about it anymore. So please don't take this as I'm here to stick up for WWE thing, because I'm not. But it really has become this AEW flag that everybody waves, whereas it's not, look at this cool thing AEW is doing. It becomes more of this thing is cool because WWE doesn't do it. Now, as much as I'm not here to defend WWE, that's kind of crap, because WWE does work with other feds. Now, not on the grand scale, not feds equal to them or trying to fight for platform with them, but they do, because Evolve is a thing, and all the other feds that they've just put onto the WWE network that I haven't checked out because I haven't had the time are a thing. And speaking from a little personal anecdotal point of view, they work with Destiny, and I go to Destiny shows quite a bit. I've seen quite a few NXT and NXT UK guys specifically at Destiny shows because that door is open for them to do so. Now, part of that is because they are not televised. There's not a competitive thing going on there, but they do work with other companies. Like, I went to Destiny, and most people know this, I went to Destiny because the title match of the card that night was Pete Dunne defending the Destiny Championship against, he wasn't called John Morrison at the time, but whatever he was called at the time, in their main event. I've seen James Ellsworth there, I've seen Badass Billy Gunn there, Rey Mysterio worked there in the past, so did Ricochet, etc., etc., etc. So it becomes this thing where, oh, it's cool because WWE doesn't do it, except they do. It seems to me like the people that say WWE don't do it are the ones that WWE didn't want to do it with, which is really, really bad. And so this whole open door or forbidden door terminology becomes obnoxious. And as I say, it becomes this thing that should have been awesome, because AEW working with all these other places and integrating talent from all over the place should in and of itself be an awesome thing, and it is. But to just chalk it up to, well, this is why they're better than WWE, just becomes an annoying conversation, even if WWE is doing things that I can't stand. Don't say they don't work with anybody else, because you can literally hop on their own network and see that they do. The other reason that I haven't talked about the open door, the opening of the Forbidden Door conversation, is because mostly it is happening with AEW, but their open door is open to AAA, or it's open to, obviously, New Japan. They worked with ROH when they did All In. They've worked with not CCW, GCW, guy with the pizza cutter gate, etc. And the reason I won't talk about those very much is those are not feds that I'm familiar with, so it would be a very, very short conversation on my part. It's very much a, oh, that's cool, isn't that neat that they're working with this person or this company or that company. And I take it on a piece-by-piece basis. I checked out New Japan because Jericho went to New Japan, in the same way that I checked out UFC for the very, very brief time that CM Punk was trying his hand at UFC. So, not that I don't think it's awesome, but it's not something I should be hosting a conversation about, because they're not like half of the conversation is something I'm not familiar with or I'm not as invested in. With all due respect to ROH, AAA, New Japan, GCW, etc., they're not groups that I follow, and I know one of the more recent ones is going to be MLW somewhere down the line. But you come along the way and you start getting involved with groups and companies, etc., that I am interested in, and I'm going to take more notice of it. Now, the first couple of things I'm going to mention are just sort of inter-WWE things, because even though they've sort of ruined NXT, I still do see a difference between WWE and NXT, even if it's only in my own head, because they're virtually the same now. I want to send out an honorable mention to AJ Styles and Riddle and the stuff that they've been doing to sort of bolster NXT. Now, I don't think that's come out of nowhere. NXT doesn't have the viewership, so send some of the guys from the main show over there to help them out. That's pretty cool. It is kind of a bummer to hear that the AJ Styles role was originally going to go to Jeff Hardy, because Jeff Hardy could have done some cool shit in NXT. AJ Styles just finished off... Sorry, cards on the table. I'm recording this on Tuesday. I'm probably going to drop this on Friday morning. We just saw AJ Styles have finally have his encounter with Grayson Waller, and then not only put him over after the match, but also be the guy to reintroduce LA Knight and sort of put him over as they closed out the show. Riddle doing his stuff with MSK is just a little bit of fun. They had a nice trios match at New Year's Evil. It's not going to change the world for NXT, but it is kind of cool to see that integration. And yes, you are seeing the integration between the two shows that happen to be on the same network, and I'm not blind to that either. But it did stir things up a little bit, and it did put over Grayson Waller, and it gave them an excuse to put Grayson Waller on Monday Night Raw as well. So that was, don't over-exaggerate it, but that was good for what it was. Now, as far as going the other way, I'm not as dreading as I used to be of people going to the main roster, because wanting them to stay in NXT isn't the same thing anymore, because NXT isn't what it used to be anymore. So when you read the dirt sheets, or you read spoilers, or you see screenshots or videos from main event, and you see Tommaso Ciampa and Pete Dunne on main event in front of the live Raw crowd, first of all facing each other, and then I think Ciampa also fought T-Bar, which... I don't know about that. I don't feel like NXT is losing them as much, because NXT isn't the NXT that they came from. Now, what they're going to do on the main roster, I have no idea. Tommaso Ciampa, the psycho killer, the guy that elicits psycho killer chants from the crowd, I don't know how that's going to fit into very, very PG Monday Night Raw, or very, very PG SmackDown. But, I mean, he'll do some good shit. I would love to see him face to face with somebody like Austin Theory, who's out there designed to make you want to punch him in the face, and Ciampa, who's very, very good at punching people in the face. Ciampa, I don't know what they do with, because Ciampa, for the longest time as well, was the guy that said he would never leave NXT. The guy that, when they tried to move him up to NXT, said, no, like, I'll leave. I'll leave if you try to put me on the main roster. Now, I don't think he's as stick-to-itive to that anymore. His tag team partner and best rival, Johnny Gargano, has left the company, rumored to go to AEW, but let's not turn it into another, oh my god, they've left WWE, so they're all going to AEW conversation, because that not only gets obnoxious, but it also gets repetitive. But Ciampa on the main roster could do some stuff. I would love to see Tommaso Ciampa taking on like a Sami Zayn. I would love to see Tommaso Ciampa versus sorry guys, somebody like he could revisit a feud with Damian Priest. He could take on what's his name, Shinsuke Nakamura. I think that would be really, if you get Shinsuke Nakamura out of sort of the fun mode that he seems to be in the past little while. I mean, he's got a mid-card title at the moment, and Ciampa could very easily relieve him of that, and that could be good. I'm not delusional. I don't think Ciampa's popping up to win the Royal Rumble or anything like that, but I do think they will settle him. They'll settle him a spot. I think once RK Bro are not a tag team anymore, I think a Ciampa Orton feud is in the cards. I think Ciampa versus Edge, I don't know who goes heel in that situation, would be really, really cool. I don't know. The one that's more exciting to me is Pete Dunne, for obvious reasons. Check it off your Destiny, Spaz Phoenix bucket list, whatever. Dunne, 100% is going to end up on SmackDown, and he's going to end up in that little collection of brawlers that they have on SmackDown. And yeah, it's all because, you know, they're from across the pond. Your Sheamuses, your Ridge Hollands, your Drew McIntyres, your Cesaros. He's going to get right into that mix. I mean, Pete Dunne versus Cesaro should be for some kind of title, should it not? I want to see Pete Dunne on the main roster breaking some people's fingers. That will be okay. The real lost soul in all this is the giant known as Walter, and I'm going to leave my Michael Hamflett jokes to one side in this case, but Walter is leaving NXT UK, and he's having his fond farewell or his last stand or whatever it is. It's either happening this week or it's already happened. I don't know. I don't watch NXT UK. But he came in, he joined his guys for a trios match at New Year's Evil on regular NXT. As much as I don't see Walter on Raw or SmackDown, he seems almost counterindicated to what NXT has become these days. So I really don't know. I mean, if you want to put Walter in that group of brawlers with Pete Dunne, all the guys that I just mentioned, then okay. But I don't know where you put him. And he said he didn't want to come to the US a while ago in interviews. So if he's leaving NXT UK and he's staying within WWE, then obviously he's going to NXT, SmackDown, or Raw. Because if he wasn't, he would just move on to another company, sort of in his comfort zone, in his part of the world. I don't think he's coming over to shock us all and show up in AEW or Impact or something like that. But he, above all, like I say, concerns about Ciampa and Dunne and how they get used, but what the hell are they going to do with Walter? We see his guys, Imperium, on Rainbows and Butterflies NXT, and how much they don't fit them. Like I say, they're the antithesis of what that NXT has become, and that becomes no clearer when you see them in the ring across from guys like MSK, like they were in that trios match. I mean, Riddle coming back to NXT made more sense. So I don't know what Walter does, but he's coming over. They're going to do something. I think he could be in the Andre role as far as the Royal Rumble is concerned. Like, he might come in halfway through and sort of clear the field, but I don't think he's going to win. I mean, I don't think they think so highly of him that they're going to put him in there with the McIntyres and the Lashleys and the Roman Reigns and the Lesnars. I wish they would. Roman Reigns versus Walter, Lesnar versus Walter, Bobby Lashley versus Walter, Drew McIntyre versus Walter are all combinations that I would love to see. But if they're going to happen at all, they're still a good ways off, especially for somebody that initially told the company that he wouldn't move to the States. So it's very interesting to see where he's going to land. He's such a unique wrestler. You know, you go back and you watch the empty arena match that he had with Ilya Dragunov, and you can't take that. And I think it was our good buddy Jake DeMarco that said it's the most violent match you will see on TV that doesn't include weapons. You can't make that Walter fit into generic cookie cutter WWE. I don't think you can do it. I really, really want them to prove me wrong. I really do. Yeah, that's sort of all the internal WWE stuff I got, because the rest of it actually does involve people making moves here and there and everywhere. Not to go under the radar, the Hard to Kill pay-per-view for Impact was this past weekend. I think it was a lot of fun. I think it overshot the mark on a lot of things. A couple of results that I didn't particularly like or wouldn't have done. But before the show even started, I think it was that day or the day previous, it was announced that Tom Hannafin, the former Tom Phillips from WWE, was going to be taking over commentary duties from Matt Striker. Now, it was cool on a bunch of levels because it's a familiar voice. It's a voice that people are familiar with because, I'm sorry, as much as people don't like WWE, more people are watching WWE than are watching Impact, which is really sad. I think people are sleeping a lot on Impact. But he's underrated on the desk. He's replacing Matt Stryker, who, although I personally, it's like a Mauro Ranallo or a Pat McAfee. I like them. I like Matt Stryker as well. But I really do get that he's got that potential to be not everybody's cup of tea. His sarcasm is a certain way. His sense of humor is a certain way. The way he presents him. He's a character. He's a character at the desk rather than enhancing the characters in the ring as much. Not that he didn't do that as well. And he worked pretty well with D'Lo Brown, who I also enjoy on commentary. But Tom Phillips and D'Lo Brown, you heard them this past Saturday, and it sounded like they'd been working together the whole time, and he does add some legitimacy to the show. He is, I won't say on the same level, but he is going to have a Michael Cole-esque influence or impact on Impact, if that makes sense. I really do hope Matt Stryker finds himself something somewhere, because I don't think he should just fall right off the map. Apparently, there was some issues backstage that he didn't get along with a couple people. Rah. And that's unfortunate. But, I mean, the best characters out there and the best wrestlers out there and the best personalities out there probably all have somebody that doesn't get along with them. Hey, you know there are people out there that think I'm a dick? I'm not going anywhere, I hate to tell you. But that was really good. It was a really strong addition to what was a really, really good show. And now, to talk about the Hard to Kill show, you really have to refer to it as the ROH Invasion. Now, what did I say at the beginning? I said I don't talk about the Open Door stuff very much because I'm not familiar with AAA, with ROH, with New Japan, all those types of things. But what you're doing to me here, or what Impact is doing for me here, is they're taking a brand that I do have a familiarity with, that I have gotten back into in the past year or so, whatever, in Impact, and using that show to introduce me to a whole other show. Now, it started with, you guys will have seen my preview for Hard to Kill, and I basically said, okay, so Chris Sabin is fighting the ROH champion on this card. I don't know what to say because I don't know anything about Gresham. I don't really know anything about ROH. It is what it is. They had a fucking awesome match. It was my first time seeing the ROH Pure rules, which I think are a little more convoluted than they need to be. I'm not going to lie, but Gresham's great from what I can say. I can see why they call him the Octopus. That's really cool. They had the commentator from ROH, whose name has just now left my brain, Ian Riccaboni. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Somebody tell me down in the box below. It was really cool, nice. It felt like a handshake from one company to another, from one company that was getting on its feet in Impact to a company that is, sort of on the sly, kind of taking a break. And I think they said they're trying to re-up their presence in like April or May. Again, my information on that is entirely loose, but it felt like this match and the champion were sort of like invited guests on the show. Hey, why don't you come here? Why don't you have a match with one of our guys? We can keep you in the conversation and all that. It felt very pleasant and cordial and all those. It was very, very inviting and very professional, and it felt very much like two elements working together until the end of the Hardcore War, which was won by all the good guys: Rich Swann, Willie Mack, Eddie Edwards, Heath, and Rhino. It's really hard not to say Heath Slater and just call him Heath, but that's neither here nor there. And they got jumped after they won their Hardcore War. There was a lot of hardcore stuff at Hard to Kill. Now, that should be expected by the name, and it should be expected because Impact likes all the weird stuff, but they were jumped, and they were jumped by Mike Bennett and Matt Taven, who I know are a tag team elsewhere, in ROH and other places, I believe called The Kingdom, and they came out with Maria. And I thought, okay, cool. So they don't have a place to be right now, so they're going to be a tag team, and they're going to make their stake in Impact until ROH gets back. And then this other guy comes out kind of looking like a pirate, and they said it's Vincent. And the only Vincent I know from wrestling is not this Vincent. And I'm like, okay, somebody made a mistake somewhere. And then the last person to join the whole crew was PCO. And my first time ever seeing PCO was a couple weeks ago at Destiny, taking on our current Destiny champion, Josh Alexander, who was on the card elsewhere. And he did a crazy old man dive off the apron, which apparently is his shtick. And they sort of like loomed over the ring as this invading presence. And then they were even referred to on camera by the commentators as the ROH invasion. And you know what? On the one hand, it does make you roll your eyes, because whenever anybody says invasion, you immediately think of the invasion that was done terribly by WWE. But here's the thing. Here's where I think this is a bit different, and here's where I'm going to look at the positive side of it. When they did the invasion, when WWE did the invasion, they already owned ECW and WWE. So they basically bought them to make them bitches. So they wrote a story. They wrote a story between the three companies where they could already write the ending. And they basically like took the corpses of those two other companies and kicked their dicks into the dirt. I have to believe that Impact and ROH are not so opposed that it's going to be that one-sided. I have to believe that this little invasion thing that they've got going on is to keep ROH in the mind, and then eventually give them a send-off in like 2 or 3 months when they get back up onto their feet. I do have to believe that it's not the only thing ROH is doing as well, because they mentioned during the Chris Sabin and Jonathan Gresham match that if Chris Sabin does win the championship, he will have to take over all the other indie dates where Gresham was going to defend that belt. So it's cool because they not only are they working together, but they gave nods to other smaller shows that title was supposed to be defended on, which is all very cool. So on the one hand, from Jump Street, I have more faith in this particular invasion than the big invasion that everybody talks about when they talk about, you know, invasions being terrible. But also, it gives me a very, very lazy way to get to know a bunch of people or a bunch of wrestlers that I'm not that familiar with. Like I say, I saw Gresham fight for the first time. I like what I saw. I hope I get to see him more. Mike Bennett, Maria Kanellis, never on their second WWE run. They didn't really get to do much other than, like, she became the 24/7 champion while she was pregnant, and she treated her husband like shit. I don't know Taven. I'm curious to see what their tag team is like. I don't know anything about the Vincent guy, so somebody tell me down in the box below. And PCO, from what I can tell, is crazy. And you guys know me, I like crazy in my wrestling. Why the hell do you think I like DK? Now, the other thing, and it was sort of understated to have it afterwards, because this happened after the invasion, but during the Texas Death Match between Mickie James and Deonna Purrazzo, where Deonna Purrazzo got robbed, let's be real, they also flashed to Roxy, who is another person that I'm obviously not familiar with, but is their women's champion. So when they've done the full invasion, and then they have one more person make a cameo at the end, it's sort of like they put the cart before the horse a little bit, but I think that's more a product of they wanted the women's match to be the main event, and this invasion was going to happen after the 10-man. So I don't think they really could have gotten around that, but supposedly there's going to be Impact Knockout champion versus ROH Woman of Honor champion. Is that what it's called? Somewhere down the line as well. And you know, title for title, even if I see this Roxy wrestle, who I've never seen wrestle before, even if she's not great, which I'm not saying she isn't because I haven't seen her wrestle, title versus title is always cool on a marquee. How long is it going to be before we see Britt Baker versus Jade Cargill, who robbed Ruby Soho? Moving on. One other thing to mention, and it's not really a hop because I don't know where the last place he wrestled was. If you don't want a spoiler, then skip ahead about 5 seconds. On the tapings that have happened in the last couple of days, the next, I don't want to say challenger because Josh Alexander isn't a champion right now, but apparently the next person on Josh Alexander's plate is Charlie Haas. And I just think that's cool. I don't think that's amazing or fantastic. It's not going to set the world on fire, but I do think it's kind of cool because it's just enough that's like, oh, I remember that guy. I wonder how he wrestles now. I wonder what he does now. And specifically, once again, like I said about Sabin, as far as the Gresham match, if you want to reintroduce me to somebody like Charlie Haas that I haven't seen in a while, do it with somebody like Josh Alexander, who makes everybody look like $1 million and still comes out himself looking like a badass. But What did I do? I buried the headline talking about that Texas death match between Mickie James and Deonna Purrazzo, because what drove Twitter nuts last Friday? It was the announcement of the participants of the Women's Royal Rumble match happening at the end of the month, because there's a lot of callbacks and everybody wants to hop on the, oh, well, they've let too many people go and they can't, put a Rumble together. Look at the 3 rosters of their 3 shows. They could easily do a Rumble if they wanted to. But just like with the guys, there's always been extras and surprises in the Royal Rumble. So the Bellas are coming back, so of course the SJWs are all upset about that, and a couple more people are coming back, and some of them are blonde, so the SJWs are upset. But then, not only by name, but by company and by title, they announce the return of Impact Knockout Champion Mickie James has been announced for the Royal Rumble. And don't get me wrong, my thoughts on Mickie James aside, that is awesome. Because that does, as much as obnoxious as I find the terminology, that does mean WWE has thrown open the forbidden door to a certain degree. Here's my problem. If you are going to say, hey, why don't we have an Impact person come and be in the Royal Rumble and represent Impact and represent us doing something cool with Impact, why would you have it be an ex-WWE person? An ex-WWE person who has had 2 different runs. An ex-WWE person who, on her way out, both times ran your dicks into the dirt. And is gonna, to the Impact fans, it's only gonna seem like you called her back because she's one of your old girls. Why, and this is how it should have happened on Saturday, and this is my point. I don't want to overshadow how cool it is that the idea that WWE is going to be working with Impact, especially so soon after Impact was working with AEW, because then you really do get a connected universe, Spider-Verse thing going on. Would it not have been really cool? I know Deonna Purrazzo spent a little bit of time in NXT, but really, did she establish herself in NXT? Did we ever see her in the main roster other than in the background of a Battle Royal somewhere? Deonna Purrazzo is way more an Impact person than she ever was a WWE person. Let's be real. Mickie James' claim to fame is still psycho-stalking Trish Stratus. Would it not have been cooler for Deonna Purrazzo to beat Mickie James in her own chosen Texas death match, to then use that momentum to carry the Impact Wrestling banner as a solid Impact competitor into the WWE's Royal Rumble and make people take notice and maybe bring a few eyes back to their show, take then the momentum of representing your company in the Royal Rumble, which is hosted by the biggest wrestling company there is, I'm sorry AEW, but it is, and then take all of that momentum into the title versus title match with Roxy later on down the line, champion versus champion. I really do think that that's the way it should have gone. I really do think that with the announcement made on Friday, they should have come in on Saturday and said, hey, this is our main event. This Texas Death Match is going to be our main event. And now, because of our agreement with WWE, not only is the Impact Championship on the line, but the opportunity to represent Impact at the Royal Rumble is also on the line, and then have Deonna Purrazzo win. Because, I'm sorry, Mickie James doesn't need it. And I'm sorry, competing on a WWE stage is not a new thing for Mickie James. It is what it is. Plus, I just find her to be obnoxious. And I really do think it's funny that she buried them on the way out. Both times. What was it, the garbage bag gate or whatever. She ran them into the ground, talked about how disrespectful they were, talked about this, that, and the next thing. But doesn't it seem funny that everybody's money is just as green, and as soon as the money was there, she's back at the ticket window? And that would be true for anybody. Don't get me wrong. Anybody that wants to represent another company at the Royal Rumble, anybody that wants to do like a cameo appearance type of idea at the Royal Rumble would be doing the same thing. They'd be doing it for the notoriety, the spotlight, the pomp and circumstance, but also the money. Let's be real. I'm not putting one person over another when I say that. But you could have put Impacts, like, because TNA and Impact have been the ones, even more so than AEW, that have always sort of grabbed a well-known WWE person, because a well-known WWE person that's just left WWE will always bring a couple of eyes over. Why would you not use this opportunity, this spot on the biggest stage? I mean, unless Impact is going to have an impact at WrestleMania, then the Royal Rumble is the biggest stage you're going to get. Why would you not feature any of your people? I'm incredibly biased, right? I love the Iconics. I guess they're the inspiration now. But if you brought them back this soon, it would just be like, oh, the Iconics are back. Like, that's how it would be. But bring in somebody like Deonna Purrazzo, bring in somebody like Jordynne Grace into the Royal Rumble. If you want to make me happy, bring in the girls from Decay. I think that would be fucking fantastic. Can you imagine the girls from Decay? Because Queen Zelina and Carmella are the current WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. Can you imagine them having a stare down with Decay in the middle of the Royal Rumble? That could be cool. There's so many, my personal feelings about Mickie James aside, because yes, she's a great wrestler. Yes, she has her place in wrestling history, mostly just getting the rub from Trish Stratus. Wouldn't we all love the rub from Trish Stratus? Moving on. Would it not open up infinitely more opportunities for them to send an Impact, like they just got Lady Frost in there. That's fine. What's her name? I can't think of her name now. That's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. But like, you got people in there that you could do. I mean, Kiera Hogan is over in AEW now, but she's somebody I would love to see her slap the taste out of Sasha Banks's mouth. But that's right. She's injured. Isn't that karma? I mean, unfortunate. I just think of all the people that if they're going to do this with Impact, of all the people that they could have sent over, they're sending over Mickie James, which to a great portion of WWE fans is just going to be like, oh, Mickie James is here again. Cool. The other thing is I don't think that they're going to have somebody from another company win the Royal Rumble. So sending the champion over there to lose isn't so great. If you send somebody from the mid-card, and as I say, my thing, just because I like the crazy characters, send Rosemary from Decay. She's a mid-carder, she's not a current champion, she's not going in to represent the company as a champion, she's a mid-carder that could have some fun spots. I mean, you could see a stare down between Rosemary and Alexa Bliss. That could be a lot of fun. I just think, for such a cool thing, for such a, like... Again, I hate to use the terminology that I hate, but for WWE to be nudging the door open, I think they went with the blandest option. And it'll probably be great. It'll be cool if they let her carry the belt down to the ring with her. I'm actually kind of curious about the little curios like that, because you remember Kenny Omega when he had all the belts and he was always walking around with the Impact World, the AEW title, but sometimes he was carrying the AAA title and sometimes he wasn't, even though he was the champion. Now I wonder how they're going to present, because it is Mickie James just coming back again. Is it going to be Mickie James with all her bright outfits and the happy clappy WWE music? Or is it going to be Impact's version of Mickie James? Is it going to be like the hardcore country thing that they drill into the dirt? Is it going to be her own music that she uses in Impact? And it shouldn't matter, because her being there is kind of symbolic, but I really do wonder whether they're going to announce her as the Impact champion, and I wonder if they're going to have her carry that belt to the ring with her when she arrives. Those are just things that I'm curious about, but as I say, you could have thrown that belt on Deonna Purrazzo and this could have been a lot more interesting, because somebody's going to take the title off of Becky at some point, and somebody's going to take the title off of Flair at some point, and either one of them having an interpromotional match with Deonna Purrazzo, potentially for the Impact title, potentially on an Impact pay-per-view. Everybody could benefit from this if they had gone just a little bit farther. If they had taken this already very cool thing and just taken it a little bit farther. Now, The last thing, and here's where all the fun speculation comes in as well, and all the things that I said about not picking an ex-WWE person to go to the Rumble if you're going to represent Impact are going to be the same for the men's Rumble as well, because the rumor is there's another quote-unquote open door surprise happening in the men's Rumble. Now, they haven't even said that it's specifically Impact, but presuming that it is, I know that Moose has said it directly, but I know also Booker T has backed Moose in his, throwing his name out there type thing. If both of the Impact champions show up in the Rumbles, if Mickie James shows up in the women's Rumble and Moose shows up in the men's Rumble with the Impact men's title, that's awesome. Now, I'm not even going to open the door to what if that open door is to AEW, because it's not. Let's be real. If it was, they would send one of the four pillars. They would send Jungle Boy, they would send MJF, they would send Sammy Guevara, or they would send... Actually, now that I think about it, if they were going to open the door to AEW, and no, I'm not stupid, I'm not saying that they have, and they see Impact sending their women's champion over there, would they not send their newly crowned interim TNT champion, Sammy Guevara, to make a splash in the men's Rumble? I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think the Moose thing is much more likely. I, again, totally selfishly, put Josh Alexander in there. Put Josh Alexander in there, or, I don't know, Sami Callihan. I think Sami Callihan's still injured, but throw Sami Callihan in there. I wouldn't say Cardona for obvious reasons. I wouldn't say W. Morrissey for obvious reasons. But you could have a lot of fun with this. You really, really could. The Moose thing is as interesting as anything else. I know he's talked some shit to Roman Reigns, where he says, I've called myself a wrestling god, and you consider yourself ahead of the table. How could we ever possibly fix this? There's a lot of cool stuff up. And anyways, this is a big ramble of a bunch of random little news bits that I couldn't make their own video. So tell me down in the box below, because I'm just going to stop talking now. I'm losing my voice, as you guys can probably tell. Tell me what you think of the Mickie James news. I think that's probably the biggest thing I've talked about tonight. If you are somebody that follows Impact, tell me what you think about the ROH invasion. Plus, Tom Phillips on commentary is pretty good. And if you're strictly a WWE/NXT person, like me, if you're cursed like that, tell me what you think about the NXT main roster moves. And who do you want the surprise to be in the men's Rumble, if there is one? I don't know why I just because I have nothing else to say other than I've been Spaz, your YWC reality chick. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, I am tagging out. Bye, guys.